Well, Crime Watch Daily has recently paired up with the very popular website Wild About Trial. This is a site dedicated to giving up-to-date information on court cases going on around the world. And we actually have the founder, criminal defence attorney Alison Treacle here. She's going to be bringing us some of the craziest stories behind the most popular trials going on right now. Thanks for being here, Alison.
Thank you for having me.
This first case,
yeah,
really interesting. I mean, there's nothing new about the idea of sexting, but this is something that I think every parent needs to know about.
Right. These are two 16-year-old lovebirds. It's a boyfriend and a girlfriend in North Carolina, and they were sexting each other. Now, the legal age for consent to actually have sex in North Carolina is 16, but for sexting, it's 18. So they actually could have had sex, but they couldn't sext each other. This kid was a high school football star, and the rest of his life could be ruined. On their phones are naked images. This is child pornography. And so the boy is now looking at up to 5 years in the state prison and 30 years as a sexual registrant. And what's really unbelievable is that the bulk of his charges stem from naked pictures of himself on his own phone. So he is both the victim as well as the defendant.
And this next case of a teenage girl charged with involuntary manslaughter after she encouraged her boyfriend to actually go forth and commit suicide.
So this is an online relationship between Michelle Carter and Conrad Roy. They exchange about 1,000 texts. In those texts, she learned that Conrad was depressed, he had attempted suicide before, and that he wanted to kill himself. What is so disturbing about this case, right before his suicide, the texts she sent are encouraging him to do it. She is looking at spending 20 years in prison if she's convicted.
Well, because she actually helped plan the suicide as well as encouraging it.
Yes.
My understanding is that she also helped to map out the exact methodology as to how he would carry it out.
Yes, she told him right before he did it to delete all their text messages.
No, almost as though she's cognizant of the crime.
Correct. But again, and I'm going to say this, she was not there when he committed suicide. And the question is, was her behavior so wanton, so reckless, that she caused his death? It's going to be a difficult call. This is certainly one that we need to keep an eye on. And at Wild About Trial, we're all over this case.
Well, the cases and the insight, absolutely fascinating. I'm so grateful for you being here today.
Of course, my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Well, time now for the latest on all the big trials happening around the country. And for that, we have the brains behind a very popular website, Wild About Trial, criminal defence attorney Alison Treacle. Alison, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start off talking about drones, actually. And the reason is there's a really fascinating case out of Arizona where this particular guy, by the name of Abraham Blake, has been flying these drones over his neighbour's property, potentially capturing images in their backyard. What privacy rights, if any, do we have when it comes to drones?
Well, drones are all the rage. I think it'll be much more regulated as the years pass, but here are the rules. You can fly it over your neighbor's yard. Use caution. So the law when it comes to drones is that you cannot fly your drone over 400 feet. Anything over 400 feet is considered public highway, and certainly all the laws regarding peeping toms and harassment and stalking, that still applies. So if you want to get that really hot shot of your neighbor with your drone and peer into their window, that's a crime. You're going to get prosecuted. And in this case, this man used it to harass his neighbors by flying it around their backyards, taking video of them. You cannot use your drone to harass people.
I need to be crystal clear about this. So if I'm luxuriating in my own backyard nude, and I'm not saying this is something that I do regularly.
Where do you live, Matt? Just kidding.
If I'm luxuriating and I might have it all off, someone can lawfully fly a drone over the top and capture some images.
Well, here's the thing. If they are using it as fun and sport and hobby, and they really don't mean any bad intention, and they capture an image of you naked, if they disseminate that image, they profit from it, they have a big problem.
Alison, this next case, absolutely beyond tragic, and I suspect by now most people would recognise this beautiful face, this beautiful picture of baby doe Bella. This was the little girl murdered in Boston. Now, her mother and her mother's boyfriend under arrest, facing a series of charges, and I'd love to get your thoughts, your perspective on what you would do as an attorney if you were defending either of those people now.
First of all, I'm doing this. So each of their attorneys are blaming the other person. But the mother has been charged with accessory after the fact. She has not been charged with murder. The maximum for that charge is 7 years. So if I'm her counsel, I run. I don't walk. I run to the prosecutor and I say, let's make a deal. I will testify against my boyfriend. The boyfriend, on the other hand, he is facing murder charges. And he has already said, I didn't do anything. The mother told me that the Department of Social Services took the girl away, and because she's a drug addict who had lost 2 of her children already, I believed her. There was no physical evidence linking me to this crime. The only thing that links me is the statement that the mother has given to the police, and I blame her.
Really fascinating insight. Is there any conceivable way, Alison, that both of them here could be acquitted and walk?
No, it is not happening. I do this all the time, and I can tell you there are cases that are winners, there are cases that are losers. I don't see any conceivable way that they will come out as an acquittal.
Well, Alison, great to talk to you again. Thank you so much for being here. This next case, Alison, is just crazy. It's out of Indiana. It involves a man by the name of Matthew Russ. He takes his ex-girlfriend's car. He crashes it into a pole. He then sets fire to her house.
Keep going.
And then he begins dancing on the roof while it's burning with a knife.
Yeah.
So as far as breakups go, this wasn't all that amicable, right?
That is correct. I don't think that there is a crime he isn't charged with. He is looking at arson, burglary, breaking and entering, possession of a knife. This is like the criminal Yahtzee of cases.
Insanity has to be the first move
Oh, yeah.
here, right? I mean, he's dancing on the roof of a burning house with a knife. That's
Yeah.
almost the definition of insanity, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the prosecution is probably going to argue that he's under the influence. It looks like maybe methamphetamine or cocaine, but he looks like he's under the influence. But the defense should be arguing that he's really mentally ill.
Alison, this last case, I mean, you and I have covered all sorts of bizarre DUIs.
This is my top 5 favorite case ever.
This involves a disabled man in a motorised wheelchair.
Yeah.
Okay, and so he's now been cited with public drunkenness.
Right.
After he runs his vehicle, if you like, into a building, then runs...
He's also charged with DUI.
Okay, he's charged
Okay.
with DUI.
Yeah.
He tells them that, look, this was just because I was on my anti-anxiety medication and I'd also had a pint of alcohol.
Yeah. Let me tell you why it's a great case and why I would gladly represent him. This is a wheelchair that he needs to get around. This is the equivalent of his legs. And I say shame on them for charging him with a DUI. If he had legs, he would have been walking through the parking lot, but he's on his wheelchair, and I don't think that this should be a DUI. He is looking at up to a year of a suspended license. He is looking at some jail time. He is looking at an alcohol program. This guy may very well need some help with his alcohol consumption. However, the crime has to fit. And here, I just don't see it as a DUI.
Alison, as always, we really appreciate your amazing insights into these crazy cases. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's time now for Wild About Trial, where we talk about some of the most interesting legal cases happening across the country. With me, as always, is criminal defence attorney and the creator of the website, Alison Treacle. We also have, joining us today, defence attorney Diana Eisman. Welcome back, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
First case today is out of Arizona, and this is all caught on camera. This is a man apparently on a mission to be, as he describes, a hero.
Watch the guys running out, and she's holding her face and phone. And I'm like, did you just get robbed? She said, yes.
Now, he chases after robbery suspects, and then he proceeds to shoot at the vehicle, all of this going down on a busy road. Alison,
Yes.
this is a difficult one. I'm sure in his mind he thought he was being fearless. He might have even thought he was being noble, but he's firing a gun in public.
That's my defense. It was well-intentioned. Was it stupid? Oh my, was it stupid?
Oh, yeah.
Does he admit to it being stupid? He does.
After I shoot, I just like all flashed, and I'm like, oh God, what the hell did I just do? I wanted to be a hero.
He actually got caught because of his Facebook post where he bragged that this time he had a gun. But where's the criminal intent here? That would be my argument.
I had good intentions, and I meant the best, and I meant to disable the vehicle.
He was well-intentioned. Diana,
I'm sorry,
this guy
I
was
can't.
protecting the employees at Walgreens.
Yes,
and
thank
he
God
said, you
for
know
that.
what?
Oh,
you know what?
Alison Treacle.
Aren't we all tired of people robbing our favorite stores?
No.
And thank God that this guy comes to their defense.
Sorry.
He took it a little too far,
He's a lunatic.
obviously. He did say that he was trying to disable the vehicle.
He was trying to
which
disable
is,
someone.
Which
With
is
a
really
gun.
superhero-ish, and I get it. This guy, he clearly needs a little gun training, something that Diana's always advocated for.
He doesn't need gun
needs-
training. he needs
needs
to have
gun
his
training.
firearm removed from his possession. There is no amount of gun training that would make this okay. This guy saw a petty theft occur in a store and then chased after that suspect with a firearm. No police officer would have done that. Forget about this guy.
Diana, what he says, let me give you what he says. He says the world would be a better place if more people came along and stepped up like he did. Do you agree with that?
What he's saying is that law enforcement isn't doing their job or they're ill-equipped to do their job, so this guy is going to do their job for them. And I'm sorry, maybe it's just me, but I don't feel comfortable with this guy running after people with a firearm, deciding when it's okay to pull the trigger.
Can we just put a button on this? How long do you think, if at all, he will spend behind bars?
A year.
A year.
All right, let's move on to our next case. This is out of Oklahoma City. A couple called off their engagement, and now, well, there is a lawsuit over who should take possession of the diamond ring. The man is saying she agreed to give this ring back. She says she never said that, and they are pointing the fingers now at each other over who actually called off this engagement. Alison, you know, there's always an argument when people split up about who gets the ring. It was worth $46,000. I mean, who ends up with it here?
Yeah, but now it's worth $75,000.
Savvy investment, right?
Absolutely. I love this case because in Oklahoma, there's no precedent. So this is the first time this matter has been decided. Other states have decided this issue. Most of them say it's a conditional gift, so it is premised upon the actual marriage. And if there is no marriage, you return the ring.
Does that hold currency in court, Diana?
Well, it's a gift, so you can't take back a gift no matter what happens. And so in these facts, under these circumstances, she gets to keep the ring, period, end of story.
Is there any way he can walk away with this thing?
I think it's going to be really difficult to prove that. I think it's going to look more like this is a gift, and it's a thank you gift for saying yes to marrying me. And I think that that's ultimately what's going to happen in this case.
I want to know where he's buying his jewellery if he's getting it $30,000 below market
Right.
value.
Yeah, good.
That's a whole separate debate for another time. Ladies, thank you for your thoughts on all of the cases today. Very grateful for your insight. All right, it is time now for Wild About Trial, where we take a look at some of the craziest legal stories and cases going on around the country. And as always, we are joined by the creator of the website and criminal defence attorney Alison Treacle. We also have former prosecutor Lonnie Coombs. Ladies, great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Nice to be here.
Straight into our first case today. Since this very unfortunate and early passing of Prince, we have seen hundreds of people come forward starting to claim that they are in some way related to him. But now it's also been revealed that a few of those claims might actually be legitimate. One person has come forward saying that they might be a child, a so-called love child. Another saying that they could potentially be a half-brother.
So this is a really interesting case because he has no children, allegedly, no will, no spouse, and no surviving parent. So it all would go to his sister and his 5 half-siblings. However, if there's a child in the picture, and you can't just waltz into court and say, I'm the child, give me the money. There has to be some reasonable probability that these two not only knew each other, but they did in fact have a sexual encounter.
How do you, when you've got an avalanche of people coming forward now saying, I might be a child, I might be a child, where do you draw the line? Because you've got to test them, go through that process. How do you actually substantiate those wild claims?
Well, there's actually companies that do this, that search out heirs and try to determine bloodlines.
Right.
And there is this one company that actually went to the judge in this case and said, look, we've had hundreds of people come forward, but we have these 2 claims that appear to be legitimate. And the interesting thing is, if that love child truly is Prince's child, all of the siblings get wiped out and everything goes to the child.
So if they can substantiate offspring,
Yes.
and there is a legitimate child, they
Yes.
get the entire
Everything.
estate.
And Matt, what's
Millions.
incredible about this is this could be someone that Prince never met,
Really?
never knew about, and they inherit the estimated $300 million estate and the entire untapped library of music.
So the family is entitled, the sisters and the rest of the family entitled to nothing.
They split it equally. If there's no will and they can't prove any love children or anybody else, then the siblings, they split it equally. But if this love child was in fact Prince's child, even though he never met Prince, even though Prince may never have known of his existence, he gets Prince's entire estate.
Before the next semester bell rings, take note, because there's a new golden rule to follow.
The law states that all school-age children must be immunized or they must be homeschooled, and the only exception is a medical waiver.
From daycare to public and private schools, now making the grade means no more shortcuts around the shots.
Prior to January 1st, parents based on religious or personal beliefs could get a waiver so that their children did not have to be vaccinated. Now, the only waiver that a parent can get is based on a medical need or necessity.
Why would you take rights from parents?
You can't force medication on people.
Many have vocalized their outrage over Senate Bill 277.
The argument against this is that the state is demanding parents to choose between their personal or religious beliefs and their child's right to receive an education.
While officials insist this change is necessary to avoid future timeouts,
we're always going to be at risk if we don't take the necessary steps to protect our population.
I think it is absolutely safe to go to Disneyland if you're vaccinated.
with SB 277 in effect, California now has one of the strictest vaccination laws in the nation.
We have this rule primarily because there has been a resurgence of measles. Disneyland was ground zero for a measles outbreak that infected at least 117 people.
So make the legal smart move to get familiar with the roster of new health requirements.
There are 10 vaccines that all children must get. They are diphtheria, they are influenza type B, measles, mumps, pertussis, polio, rubella, tetanus, hepatitis B, and chickenpox.